So we are looking live right now at the podium at the White House. The Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt will stand before reporters any minute. So we're going to start with some breaking news. Let's go live to CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Ed, you've got some breaking news regarding 3 detainees released from Belarus, one of them an American.
Yes, Reed, good to be with you. Just a few moments ago there at the White House, the U.S. Special Envoy for Hostages, Adam Beller, was telling reporters it appears 1 American and 2 Belarusians have been released. Whether it's directly linked to the release of Mark Fogel is unclear, but it has happened. One of these 3 is a U.S. citizen who Beller said wants to remain private at this point, so they haven't released the name. The other is as he put it, well-known journalist from Radio Liberty. His name is Andrei Kuznechik. He is with Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty's Belarusian service. The third, he did not know the nationality. And he said also that there was a 4th detainee released 2 weeks ago, a woman named Anastasia, who he said is now in Texas. It was unclear if that person is a U.S. citizen. So it's all fluid. All comes in the wake of the release of Mark Fogel and now the return of a Russian who's going back, who'd faced some cryptocurrency-related crimes, and also comes as President Trump has announced just in the last hour that he had a lengthy conversation with Russian President Putin about the future of the war in Ukraine.
Well, and Ed, I want to ask about that because we saw that Truth Social post by President Trump regarding that conversation, and he did reference the war in Ukraine. What's fascinating to me is the order of communications. You're seeing President Donald Trump first having that communication with Vladimir Putin, whereas the prior administration likely would have had a communication with Mr. Zelensky of Ukraine and done it the other way around. Does that strike you as well?
The Biden White House like to say nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. In other words, let them decide it's their war. In this case, Trump appears to be going directly to Putin, the aggressor, and saying, hey, buddy, let's try to cut a deal here and end this. Also notable that the president revealing that he's had this conversation and saying that he's agreed to have their respective teams start negotiations and saying also that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, will take the lead on those. That comes as his defense secretary was at a conference today on the future of the war in Ukraine, signaling U.S. troops will never be part of ongoing operations there, which is consistent with the last administration, but also suggesting Europe needs to be doing more to step up and saying that the idea that Ukraine's going to get back territory it's had before is what's prolonging this, and that they need to instead focus on negotiations with Russia to try to establish some better order and security for Ukraine by ending the hostilities. So that is a big change in tactic for American foreign policy, at least, as was channeled during the campaign would likely happen. Whether Zelensky's on board with this and supports the idea remains to be seen. But clearly the American president and the Russian leader, now having been in touch, are eager to start talks.
Well, and he also talked about the history between Russia and the United States, even going back to the World War, and saying that we had cooperation at one point and wanting to establish that. That really front-loaded what the president said on Truth Social. What do you think that is by way of narrative setting? You
mean referring to the U.S.-Russia alliance during World War II?
Yes.
Yeah. He's suggesting he'd like to get back to that. The problem, of course, is all the things that Russia has done in the years since. The espionage work, the military work, the erosion of democracy across Russia, and then, of course, parts of Europe that it has influence over, and whether the United States wants to look beyond that and try to cut a deal and find a way to get back to working with the Russians. President Trump has always campaigned on the idea that he could do that, and whether public support is there with him would have to be reassessed. But again, this is something he suggested during his campaign he could resolve quickly. We're about 20-plus days into the administration, and he hasn't yet. So whether this is the solution remains to be seen, and as you pointed out at the top, requires Ukraine to get involved and to be okay with the terms of whatever negotiations may start here. And if Trump is suggesting that he's going to be negotiating on behalf of Ukraine, that is a huge change in tactic from the U.S. perspective before the Trump administration, which was that Ukraine would have to take the lead on this. Ukraine would have to be the one reaching out to Russia, or vice versa, and the United States would merely be an observer, encouraging them to do so if that's the way Ukraine wanted to go.
So much to keep track of. We are sure, Ed O'Keefe, you will be on top of it leading up to our dinner time headlines. Thank you so much. Always great to talk to you live from Washington, D.C.